And we are live. Welcome to House Culture Conversations. And tonight we are hanging out with the machine, JT. How are you?
I'm more nervous now we're live than before our previous chat before we went live. But so far, so good. Feeling comfortable.
Hey, you are fine. We are just hanging out, having a good time. So I don't know if you are on YouTube out there, if you're on Twitch coming in, or on Facebook Live, wherever you are and wherever you're coming in to join in with the fam. We appreciate you so much. Portia Live is in the building. What's happening, Portia? Cabasso is in the building. They're already dropping comments, and let's see if I can get them up. Yep. So that's what it'll look like. You'll see it coming through. You can see Portia Live saying, "Hey, we can hear you." And oh, hey, hallelujah! It's a spirit. They say it's a spiritual thing, right?
You're gonna miss my
And
mic when we're done. Trust me. You're gonna miss my actual DJ mic.
So, hey, let's go ahead and jump right in. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up, and all that good stuff. And while the family's coming in, because we do things the way we do, I may just jump in. On Your Mind is on. She is saying, "Hey, I'm here." So, just so you know, periodically I'll jump in there and let you know that the family's coming on board. But let us know a little bit about you.
I guess I'll start with where I'm originally from. So I was born in Chelsea in London in the UK. So my mother was when she was younger, she had actually come to Canada. My brother and sister being older are Canadians. She was married when she was in Canada. So she moved back to England, and I was born back in the UK, and I lived in England until I was around 14 years old, and that's when I immigrated to Canada. So I didn't have a lot of exposure to, I guess, the dance music culture. I grew up in what we call council flats in the UK. So we didn't have a telephone. We had to go down to the square to use a telephone. I had a black and white TV, and playtime for me growing up was go outside and play tag and chase each other, right? There was nothing indoor. There was no music. There was nothing. So the only music influence I had growing up was coming home to my mother, like I said in the bio, playing Rod Stewart nonstop. My brother listening to his hard rock music, and my sister, she had a bit more of a poppy taste. And then the only sort of dance music culture I ever got assimilated to was listening to Top of the Pops on the TV, where they, in the UK, you would hear a lot of soul and stuff, disco on Top of the Pops, but I was not really exposed to any mainstream or underground dance music at that time at all in my life. So when I came to Canada, my first year I was in like a junior school, and then by chance, I went to a high school where I was late for the first day of school, and there was two other kids in the office who were also late for school because they just got back from a holiday in Greece, and it was Dino and Terry. You probably know about them. They're big house DJs, producers in their own right. So I got paired up with them, and they gave me the experience of listening to a Sony Walkman, and they played the first song I ever heard in this new genre of music was Planet Rock. And from that moment on, my musical taste changed forever. There was no going back.
Right now, in your bio, you talk about what your mom and what the rest of your family listened to. Is Rod Stewart, I think, was
Rod
one,
Stewart, yeah.
right?
Non-stop.
And a lot of pop
A
from
lot
your
of pop, yeah,
sister.
yeah. I mean, some of the stuff was like, early Kate Bush stuff like that. And then, a lot of British bands. We listened to a lot of stuff like, and I'm not no joking, and I joke about this with Cabasso all the time, but I was forced to listen to groups like Bay City Rollers and Shawadi Wadi. So that's the kind of music that I was surrounded by growing up. The occasional song that might have been on the same path was listening to like something like Smokey Robinson or something that we played on radio. I mean, that's the closest I came to dance music when I was growing up.
And so, talk about you're in Canada now. You've gotten exposed to this music. Where did that take you?
So being paired up with Dino and Terry right away, they were new at the school. I was new at the school, and I was kind of cool then. My cool thing back then was I was a shy kid. So the cool thing that I had back then was everybody used to call me English because, of course, I had the thick English accent just recently coming over. I originally had a bit of a Cockney accent, so a lot of people really took to it and say say something, and I was a shy kid. So I hung around Dino and Terry, and Dino's, he's the social butterfly of the group for sure. So I used to hide under his coattails, and Terry and I and Dino used to hang out in what we used to call the Greek clique. And then it was a whole bunch of Greek kids from Toronto, and I hung around them, and they were very big at that point into the freestyle scene. So my first exposure to music was like freestyle and electro and stuff like that. So the Treniers and C Bank, groups like that. So I'm still passionate about listening to that type of music. It's in my bloodstream. But there was, a period from, I guess, it would be around 1982 to around 1985 where my sole listening music was just freestyle and electro music. And in Toronto, that scene was thriving because I think around that time, the first breakdance movies were out. We had the crunchy breakdance challenge at CNE in Toronto where people were coming and doing windmills and all sorts of crazy stuff, right? And I had actually never danced in my entire life until, I started listening to freestyle. And I used to remember hanging out at dances, and I was terrified to dance because I had never danced. And I would just watch people do moves, and then I would go home and practice them, right? So the first time I would dance, I wouldn't feel like a complete idiot.
Wow. So you're saying before you were was that high school, you never danced before?
Never danced, not once in my entire life. I'd never, ever, ever danced. So
Never danced a jig or anything? Nothing.
Nothing at all. Like it was, again, my playtime was literally, my mom was a single parent mom. So when we grew up, it was like, she was working full time. She had the 3 kids. And it was just like, go outside and play. And she went to work, and then she came home, and there was no dances. That wasn't the lifestyle. And Cabasso's got the emote that pretty much resembles my first dance moves.
Well, Portia Live thinks differently. She says you have moves. So now, well, I guess you can kind of talk about it. We always talk about when did the kind of house genre come into your arsenal or into your your musical interest.
Yeah, so again, we started off, and Dino and Terry had started DJing back, or I guess probably around. I remember around '84 they started DJing school dances and some freestyle events. So I started going to those, and we used to go to this club on a Saturday night in Toronto. It was called Club Z, which was a big electro club. A fantastic DJ who used to work there. DJ JC was his name. If you want to hear somebody play electro, that was the guy to hear play. So we started going to that club, and I think it was probably around 1985 where we ventured a little further south in the city, and we went to a famous club in Toronto called the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone was actually opened way before then, back I think around 1980, but we started going there, I think it was around maybe 85, 86, and when we went in there, we get to walk in to hear stuff like Jam Silk, Shadows of Your Love, so really, and it was like an electric shock, right? It was like a completely different type of music than we were used to, but it just felt right. And when you were in there, the crowd was different too. It was not one type of person in the crowd. It wasn't like an all black, an all white, an all Greek. It was just such a diverse crowd of people just in one place listening to this music that we'd never heard before. And not just cultural differences, but there was straight people, there were gay people dancing all together, and there was no. It didn't feel like an unsafe environment, even though it was completely alien to us, right? It was just like people in there listening to the music. the speakers in this place were just, oh, yeah, like I'm not an audiophile, but everybody tells me it's a Richard Long sound system, and it was just the sound just went. You could stand right on top of the subwoofer and just feel it go through you, but it didn't hurt, right? It was just like beautiful, beautiful sound.
Oh my gosh. Now, you've probably hit on some of the most important factors of why the music continues to thrive today. But I want to ask you, why do you think, house music, when you think back to your exposure, and we can call it house, and now that I've broadened my thinking, club, dance, um, it's really a feeling, right? And we try to call it something, but you know what it is when you're around it. Why do you think it's still here and thriving so many years later?
Well, it's funny. When I was younger, in some sort of egotistical way, I used to throw around terms. I listened to underground music and all this stuff, but I think that was misleading, right? What it was about the music, it was just a pure music, like. And once I got into dancing, there was no better vibe to just go out and dance, and the diversity of the people listening to the music made it easy to dance because everybody was different, right? There were The problem is what I found with dancing when I first went out, when I went to the electro places, was everybody danced exactly the same, and if you didn't, you stuck out, right? When I went to the Twilight Zone and these people were just cutting loose, you had people sliding on the floor, you had people doing backflips, you had people still doing the breakdance moves. It was just like a complete. It was like everywhere you looked, there was something different to look at, and it was an environment where you looked at those people and they weren't like, "What are you looking at?" They would
Right.
like smile at you. They would go put their hand up in the air, and everybody would just be jumping up and down to the music, right? So that was my first contact with the music, right? And again, being young, I listened to underground music, but I think it was more just feeling comfortable being in that environment that drew me to house music versus it being, like you said, putting a label on it. It was
Yes.
a place where
Yeah.
you could just go relax. Um, and ironically, now I think one of the reasons why people have a problem dancing today is because the relaxed attitude is gone because everybody's doing this now, right? Filming everybody else dancing. So I think when I went to the Twilight Zone, it felt like a place where I could listen to music and just do whatever the hell I wanted to do and just enjoy it, right? And just not have anybody criticize or pull you down, as well as the music. It was just fantastic. It was an experience. It was music like I'd never heard in any other genre.
It just takes you, it just grabs you, right, and just holds you there, and you never actually want to get let go. Dreammaker Diva, how are you? Good to see you. I see you putting in that t-shirt order. Bobian, how are you? Thank you for vibing with us. We are hanging out with the Machine JT. All right, so everybody wants to know, where does the name Machine JT come from?
I wish I had a really exciting story to tell you, but like I said, when I was in high school, we hung out with a group of Greek guys called the Greek Clique, and there was one guy in the group. His name was Spiro, and he was the comedian in the group. And one day in the middle of the group, he just yelled out, "Hey, machine!" And everyone was like, "Who are you talking to?" And he said, "You." And then what happened was immediately everybody started calling that. And the funny thing is, to this day, uh, you know, that's what Dino and Terry call me. That's what all my close friends in Toronto call me. They don't call me by my name. They call me Machine. And even Dino and Terry's parents, when I go over and see them, they call me the Machine, right? So there's no. I've often asked myself, what's the rationale behind it? Try to put my finger on it. Maybe they have a reason, but no one's ever told me the real reason why I was ever called that. It was just something given to me at the age of 15, and I've been unable to shake it. And you guys can do the math. I came to Canada in '81 when I was 14, so it stuck with me a long time, that name.
Yeah, sometimes it just is what it is. It wasn't anything, fascinating or interesting. Queen Ontario, we see you. So when did you get behind the tables and start DJing? I know you like to say, well, I'm a connoisseur of the music more than I am a DJ, but you spent some time behind the tables.
Yeah, in a weird way though, because I've never. When I say I'm not a DJ, and I want to clarify why I don't consider myself a DJ. When I play music on Twitch, it's a selfish endeavor because I will tell you, I'm going to tell you, there's not one song that I play on my stream that I personally don't like, right? A real DJ has different constraints on them. So if you go to a club and you're a DJ, I'm not even saying you have to play music you don't like, but you take the music that you have and the people that are at that club and they've paid money to go there. And your job as a DJ is to play the way you play, but also keep them interested. Mm-hmm. It's a lot trickier to do that, in my mind, than to just play music that you just love selfishly in a forum where, if somebody doesn't like what I'm playing on Twitch, they can quickly click. They don't have to get in an Uber and go somewhere else, right? So I think DJing is a different skill. So my first exposure to DJing in the real world is Dino and Terry, because we're like brothers growing up. Whenever they would go out and DJ, I would hang around with them. And they used to DJ at a really famous after-hours club in Toronto. That only lasted about 2 years, but it would go from like 12 o'clock at night till 7, sometimes 9 o'clock in the morning. And they would DJ the entire set. So we would like hang out, have a few drinks, and then they let me go on at the beginning on the 1200s, and I would play. I couldn't mix I couldn't mix at all. I would be a train wreck. But I got used to playing on the 12s through just doing those activities from them. And there was a couple of times, I DJ'd out probably in the mid-90s, just a couple of times where I independently did something, but it was more of a double booking thing than it was me doing an event. When I really started DJing or the act of DJing, again, I don't like to say I'm a DJ, is when COVID hit. And as I got older, right, it wasn't as easy for me to go out 4 nights a week, because we used to go to clubs 4 nights a week. From the time I was around 17 to the time I was around 37, we were going out 4 times a week to clubs and stuff like that. When I had a family and I had my full-time job and all these other things, my going to clubs went less and less. And it was then I started really missing the music, because the music I hear when I'm not in that environment it's like when I was growing up. It's not the music I was hearing when I was going out. I come home, my wife's traditional, she likes the traditional rocks and stuff like that, disco and stuff like that. So there's an intersection where there's some music that we sort of both are into. But for the main part, like the kind of music I listen to is not something my wife and daughter like listening to, right? So I had to find another mechanism. So I sort of, at that point, I bought more music, and then I started getting a collection. So in my spare time at home as a hobby, then I could start listening to that music, because I didn't have as much exposure to it in clubs. So that's how, and then when COVID hit and Twitch hit, and I saw some of my friends doing Twitch. They said, try it. Then I went out and got an old tractor, and which I still have. I have the same device I got when I started first DJing online about 4 years ago. Same equipment. And then it's just turned into just a regular passion. And I've got the traditional sickness once you get hooked of, in your time when you're not DJing, you're scouring through tracks. Where's that old track that I remember that I don't have? Where's this new one that I want, right? And where's that one that DJ D-Lock played yesterday? Because I need that one too. It's become like an obsession, right? But it's a harmless. I find it a harmless obsession. It's not a cheap hobby, but
yeah, those records and those downloads can add up. Yogi Chick, we see you. DJ G Caps, thanks for vibing with us on House Culture Conversations. We're hanging out with the Machine JT, and he's kind of catching us up on what his journey has been through this thing called. What are we going to call it, the Machine JT? If we don't call it house, we don't call it club, we don't call it underground. I don't know. What are we going to call it?
It's tough because I remember, especially in probably the mid '90s, there was this. I don't know if you remember like Clubland Records and stuff like that. There was this period where house was becoming a little bit more commercial. You hear songs like "Finally" and stuff like that, CC Peniston,
Yeah.
and it was like at that point you were like, oh, I think house is finally going to break through into the mainstream, right? You were like, it's going to get there. And ironically, it's sort of like everybody was always predicting house is going to die. It's never going to be around. It's going to die. And it never really took that step in the sense of house music becoming truly mainstream. But in hindsight, now, when you listen to the radio and you listen to, Serena Gomez and people like that here, when you hear the underlying beat, it's essentially house, right?
Yeah.
So I think the lines between what is house, what is pop, and what is all this is become very, very blurred, right? People say, if I say to you, you like house music, and they say no, and then they listen to like Miley Cyrus or something, and I go, but that's got a house beat underneath it, it is house, kind of. So I think the term we use for house music has got very, 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 very blurred. House is very much a mainstream. You see Drake now doing stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drake's doing house music.
Yeah.
I think it's undeniable that house is probably the underlying theme in most pop music today. It's not rock, right? Rock has had its day.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you talk about the mainstream. What I like to say is, even with all of that, seeing people like Beyonce or Drake and others create house tracks in the pop community in that space, house still is our music. When I go to a club, I still feel like I felt 30 years ago when I was a kid. I still feel that underground. I still feel that it's for everybody and no one's left out. And you can be yourself, right? If you want to run up to a speaker and start jacking to a speaker, do your thing, right? And nobody's standing in judgment. As a matter of fact, people are in awe that you have that much freedom to let yourself go. And so, it's interesting to me where we are today, that it has tentacles in so many other genres and has spawned so many other genres, but it's still ours.
But I think you've touched on something there that is unique about what's changed generationally, right? And I don't think it's that younger kids don't have a feel for the music, or I think it's just the culture of dancing is dead, right? I the only people that like to dance are people that are from. I'm not going to say my generation, because some of the people in this chat are a lot younger than me. I'm saying the generations that we came from, dancing was a thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it becomes really obvious to me now is I can go over to a friend's house where there's a mixed age group of people, and somebody puts on a record that my wife likes or I like, and we'll get up in the living room and start dancing. And the people that are, 30 and below go, what the hell are they doing? Right? I think that's the biggest change that's occurred. And I, again, going back to social media, it's funny because I'm playing on social media, Twitch. I think the advent of people taking cameras into the club and instantly making someone look foolish online because they do some funky dance move is what's made people terrified to dance. I don't think it's because I have some sort of older man generational feel for music that young kids don't get. I think they do get it. I think they just have more constraints on them from enjoying it, right? They can't relax. There's a constant something watching them.
It's a production.
Yeah,
It's a
something that
production.
returns to humiliation, right?
And if you go on Instagram or TikTok, those people, they are polished and they are dancing. I mean, you see some of that stuff, you're like, I can never do that. I'm not dancing ever again. They totally shame you. Miss K Love, we see you in the building. Thanks for vibing up with us. Wait a minute. Oh, Bovian, definitely lots of young people making TikToks in the club. So to your point, you're always on. The show is always live. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now, what's your? Go ahead. You're about to
I
make a
was just going to say,
statement.
and some people are comfortable with that, and some people aren't, right? I think I'm going back to me when my experience when I was. Remember when I said I didn't dance?
Yeah.
I watched people, and then I went home and danced. So I had that same fear back then, but I didn't have the issue of going with my new learned dance moves, doing them, and somebody suddenly immortalizing me on a 5-minute or 5-second video, right? So I think the concerns that they had, I had even growing up, but in an environment where it was safe to do it, right? It's not so safe, I think, for younger people to dance. And I think it's a shame because dancing is I think more than anything, I think music is what drives me. I think what drew me to music is just to being free to dance. That's what I love about music the most. I think, and it's a good job I DJ on my stream. It's mostly dark and people can't see me because a lot of times a lot of people will see me blowing my nose, but I'm actually not. I'm actually probably crying because the song is making me emotional. So
Yeah, I've seen you cut a rug. I've seen you bust a dance move here or there every now and again.
yeah. Yeah, and I get very emotional when I listen to music, right? And I think it's either I want to dance or I just want to feel what the song is doing. And I think that just comes from, and that's why I consider myself first and foremost to be a music lover versus a DJ, because I just want to immerse myself in that music and that sort of up and downness of it.
Yeah, and I think that has its place. Portia Live said, when she first joined, you were one of the few that she reached out and said, "Hey, I'd like that playlist," right? And that says a lot. Being a connoisseur of the music, and to your point, playing for yourself, which is what you get to do, right? You're not there to entertain the listener necessarily, but you're allowing them a window into what's moving your soul, and that's a beautiful expression, because I think more than anything, that's what the dance is all about, and that's what being able to play your box. Let's not call it DJing, right? We're just playing your music and letting other people see you express what you feel, what you experience. Because I always say, if it wasn't for house music, I lived in Chicago. I came up in Chicago. It was rough. It was rough. If you weren't at these parties, you were probably in a gang or doing some drugs or doing something else that probably wasn't in your best interest. And I love what you said earlier. You felt safe.
And that's a very good point, because Toronto is a very safe city. But even back then, for people that were teenagers or in the middle, there's some clubs that going out to 3 a.m, you could end up, with back of a police cruiser with your teeth punched out, right?
Yeah.
But it never felt that way in this environment. And I think it's because there was such a diversity in the audience and the crowd that was there, that there was no dominant sort of force, right? There was no dominant force where one group could say, it's our way or you get this, like it was,
right.
Everybody was there for the music, the vibe. And if something did start happening, there would be a lot of people just saying, oh, no, just break it up. That sort of a vibe, right? And then everybody starts dancing. And
that's it. I mean, that's exactly it. I like that. You just use really good descriptions. There's no dominance. You didn't feel any intimidation. You didn't feel like you didn't belong.
That's 100% it. And the funny thing is too, is the music at the time, when I first went to clubs like Twilight Zone, if I think about the early house music, right, and especially the vocal stuff, it was all very uplifting stuff, right? It was all about, love and holding hands and just being nice to everybody. It wasn't like, see that guy there, punch him in the face and steal his wallet. It just didn't have a place. I mean, I'm thinking of like the New Jersey garage stuff, right? It was just so uplifting and it would be kind of hard to be a badass listening to that stuff, right? Because you're just completely out of place.
Absolutely, absolutely. So where do you see all of this going? The culture. We've got streaming. People are getting back out. We've got tons of music. How do you see this thing? Is it just going to continue, and just more to come, or what do you think's ahead?
I think I often thought about. And again, I'm going to take myself out of the equation because I think when you get to a certain age, the reality is I'll go out to club for special occasions, but I'm not going out to clubs 4 nights a week anymore. Let's face it, it just ain't gonna happen. But if I put myself in someone like my daughter's shoes, right?
Yeah.
The kind of clubs that she goes to in people her own age group, and she's around 25, 26. It's either very corporate, right, where everybody's like sitting down, they're listening to music, but they're not really getting up and dancing. Or it's more of an event style thing where everybody's standing over the DJ because they're a celebrity just filming them.
Right.
Again, I go back to, I'm worried that the dancing part of clubbing is still very much reserved for those people that are like above 30, right? So whenever I go to the scene now, there are events happening. But when I go in there, I see predominantly people 30 and above. I don't see a lot of people 30 and below. It might just be me. Maybe I'm going to the wrong clubs. But if the people are 30 and below, I think they're more into the more progressive EDM stuff than they are into the more uplifting stuff that we find comforting. It is interesting though that South Africa, South Africa, which is to me a big resurgence in house music. I'm almost seeing them follow the same progression of music that I was listening to when I grew up. Like the early South African stuff was like very sort of minimal, like the early house music stuff, right? Then they started putting vocals on it. Then they started experimenting with going a little bit deeper and doing some acidy stuff, right? I see a lot of similarities in the progression of that music coming out of South Africa, but a lot more polished, right? It's just a lot more classy music. I don't understand the words that's being said in the songs, but I can feel, and I'm sitting there going, this makes me feel this way, even though I don't know what they're saying, right? And it's the same feeling I'm getting from that music that I got from the music and the different stages I remember from 84 going through to 2000. So I'm optimistic that there are people to carry that torch forward. And again, even in the US, the house music has never died. There's still quality producers in the US just pumping stuff out. And not garbage stuff, right? Like good, wholesome, solid house music. So I'm confident the music will live.
That's encouraging to hear. Breeze DBL, we see you. John Davis Jr., we see you. Luz Clarita LV, we definitely see you. Thanks for vibing with us on House Culture Conversations. We're having a time with the Machine JT, and this has been just an incredible conversation. Now, what people may not know is that you are a bona fide songwriter in your own right.
A little bit of a cheat. So I'll tell you, so one thing I dabbled in when I was younger. It was probably the only course in school I was ever good at. Is I used to write poetry, right? So I used to write some really early poetry stuff, and then of course once I started hanging out with Dino and Terry, I think they started their own record label. I'm going to get it wrong on the dates. Probably around 85 and 86. They started, Crash Records. They had another label called Vinyl Piece. So they used to be in the studio with all the equipment. They would be pumping out these tracks, and there would be, not gonna lie, there would be alcohol involved. So I would be sitting in the studio, enjoying the music, listening to their creativity, making stuff, and being a little bit intoxicated with my poetry. I would sit down with a pen and paper, and I started writing a couple of things. So then, Dino and Terry, they picked up and said, "Oh, you know what? We're gonna get a vocalist to come in and sing this." And the first two songs that I wrote down on paper, one was "Can You See My Soul," and the other one was "In His Power," which is "In His Power" is a little bit funnier because I'm going to confess I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person. And if you hear "In His Power," it's pretty much a gospel song, right? So I wrote the lyrics for both of those, and they got a lovely girl to sing it. Her name's Alana Bridgewater. Just such a beautiful voice. And she's actually, I believe now she's actually a Broadway singer, right? So she does Broadway songs. So she sang those two songs that were released on Crash Records. And then I wrote two others. One is called Peace of Mind, which was by an artist named Rayon, who did that song on Vinyl Piece. And the last track I did it's more of a poem, and it was by what they call DTMA, which is Dino, Terry, Machine, Andre. And Andre, who's the voice on the record, some of you may know him as Kingdom Dre. He's a DJ in Toronto. He does Gatherings of Soul. He's the husband of Judy CL. So he was the voice behind that track. So that's my foray into writing music. After that, I got a little bit lazier and I sort of stopped. I did make one track on with help of Dino and Terry on one of their early records. It's called Dance Machine. It was sort of a play on the fact I was learning to dance and my name was Machine. That was on Apollo Grooves Volume 1.
That is awesome. DJ Paco D, welcome on in all the way from Italy.
Ciao.
Good to see you. Yes. Ciao. That's my jam coming in. We see you. Thanks so much for vibing with us on House Culture Conversations. I've got a question for you just on Toronto in general, talking about current day. There are a lot of great streamers out of Toronto and a lot of great DJs. Talk a little bit about the scene in Toronto today.
So I want to put a caveat because I can't speak fulsomely because again my going out to clubs is a little less. I'm assuming there's not as much going on. There is still an active scene. I mentioned Gatherings of Soul, which is an active party, which is Kingdom Dre and DJs at. GCaps has started DJing again, which is good news. I hear he's going out, so I might get a hall pass and go out and hear him play. But he's playing his classic, jazzy sort of tone stuff. Beautiful music. There's also DJ Yogi. He DJs at a place called Revival, which is where you can hear new house music, some classic stuff. That's pretty active scene. A lot of folks go in there. And my brothers Dino and Terry are going to start doing what they call a night called South Africa Deep, where they play. The beauty of listening to them play is they've been playing music from the beginning, but they are still very much, on the cutting edge of music, playing new stuff, making you dance to stuff and play music. Again, getting back to the DJ thing, why I say there's a difference between somebody that plays music and a DJ. A DJ is not only somebody that can play live and adjust, but they also have a role to educate people on music. One thing that, I don't mind classic nights. I love, people who hear me stream, hear me play classic music as well. I still think a DJ has an obligation to keep the music alive. And to keep the music alive, you have to start creating those new anthems, getting those new songs into people's heads, because otherwise we just stagnate. And then what happens is, if we stagnate, is my 26-year-old daughter, who doesn't know, a traditional Mystery of Love by Mr. Fingers, right? She's never going to get into that song. She wants to hear the songs that's memories from where she is, right? So a DJ has to keep the scene going, should be trying to educate people on new stuff, right? And I think that's an area where, you know, I hope that I do that when I stream online. But again, I think it's easier for me to do it on Twitch than it is for somebody standing in a bar where someone's breathing over going, I spent $400 on drinks here and you're playing crap music, right? So I think being a DJ, I think it's like a badge of honor that you have to earn from playing it. And a lot of the folks that I listen to have that honor. I'm going to be honest with you. Like I listen to, you know, a lot of DJs that do DJ in the real world. And I'm going to pick on them portion live DJs in the real world. I don't DJ in the real world. So I've got a luxury, right? You know, Russell Joseph DJs in the real world. DJ Ray Ray, right? I have a lot of respect for DJ Ray Ray because DJ Ray Ray, he plays a lot of really cool stuff that I'm like, what the hell are you playing? And I want to go buy it. But he can play it in a place when I go there, and it looks like a place where if I tried to play a deep house song, people are saying, what the hell are you playing? I don't know how he does it, right? Like, he just has this knack to make people listen to music that I think there's no way if I played that music, they'd let me play it. They want to hear something else. So it is a skill. You know, I'm not saying one's better than another. I think there's all different levels, right, of music playing, DJ. I don't think there's one brush that, you know, just because I go online and get a DJ controller doesn't make me a DJ, right? Yeah. I think it's important to do that. And I don't mean that in a snobby way. I love listening to everybody's interpretation of music. The one thing about Twitch, which I love the most, is the fact that I have now been exposed to some music that I wouldn't have. Like, I'm starting to get more into some of the organic progressive house tracks. I used to think it was all just like boom, 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 boom. I'm actually starting to hear some DJs that play some of the stuff. I'm like, wow, I can get into that, right? Like, and it's something new, and I want to add that to my toolkit. So the music, I think the music's going to thrive. I think in many ways, the ease of people being able to play music online will keep it going. Yeah. Because it's going to encourage diversity of thought versus the same, you know, one thing that, you know, the radio, like I went on the radio the other day and I switched the channel 7 times and I heard the same song being played on all 7 channels, right? That's not how you make music thrive and grow. That's how you stagnate music.
That's it. Well, hey, I see myself casting a shadow as the hour begins to darken. This has been incredible. I think that we had a question. How do you know DJ G-Caps?
Actually, through Twitch. So when people might laugh when I say this. Now my eyes start closing at 10 p.m. Like I'm almost half asleep at 10 p.m. So before about 4 years ago when I could actually stay up late, I used to watch Dino and Terry. They do a Friday night stream, and they usually start around 10:30 and go to 3 a.m. It was in that stream that G-Caps started popping up, and you know we were bantering back and forth, and we realized we had a common history and a common love for music. And since then, you know, we sort of started, you know, meeting in real life, you know, hooking up, talking to each other all the time, you know, WhatsApp, bantering back and forth. And I've gone to his place a couple of times, and we just, you know, gone back and forth. I think he's still a bit stunned that I actually know how to mix on the 1200. He thought I was just a digital He thought I was just a digital guy. He didn't know I could mix with the 1200. Right, G-Caps?
Yeah, that's hysterical. Hey, M. Breezy, welcome on in. Good to see you. And hey, what else are you going to leave us with? This has been amazing. So insightful. And also a little bit of history. Appreciate you so much. When are you on? When can people catch you?
Well, you know, what I'm usually supposed to be on is I usually pop up at around 4:30 Eastern on a Tuesday, and I'm only supposed to play for a couple hours, but sometimes I get out of control. I used to pop up in the afternoons on Sundays, But I'm probably gonna get a sarcastic comment now. They're gonna say I'm always on.
They did, yeah, absolutely. Yes, she's always on.
Yeah, because when I'm pottering around at home and there's nothing to watch on TV, or one of my, I'm gonna give a couple of shout outs here, because there's some people, and I don't want to offend anybody if I didn't mention names, because there's a lot of people I love listening to. But of course, I listen to my brother Cabasso on Wednesdays for sure, and the Deep Night Crew. Fantastic music from beginning to end from those guys. I watch for Pablo whenever Porsche lets him play. He played today actually, so I get to catch Pablo. G-Caps for sure. G-Caps, I used to hand the baton to him on Fridays. I used to play on Fridays and hand off to him. Dino and Terry, when I can stay awake, for sure, but they only play one night a week. And I'm missing a whole bunch of others, and I feel really guilty when I do this, but there's so many good DJs on there. Infiltrate 808, who plays a bit more melodic and techno-y, but he was with one of the early people that used to support me and listen to me, and I love the way he plays music too. So there's a lot of folks that I listen to. Who have I missed? Somebody's going to tell me I've missed somebody. I'm going to get really sad. Luz Clarita. Wow. Luz started DJing. I'm like, wow. She's I don't know if she must have been DJing before she went on Twitch. There's no way somebody can pick it up this quickly and take over, because then I'm sitting there going, why did it take me 25 years to get here? Right? So right. I think the most important thing is music is a selfish endeavor, right? Like, I listen to DJs who I feel are playing music that they personally like. To me, that's important, because I don't want to hear a DJ play something to regurgitate with the notion that they think they can make me dance like a robot, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to make me dance to it, you better like it too, right? I think the feeling has to come through. And the feeling isn't just about hitting a couple of knobs or changing a pitch control. The feeling is you have to be enjoying it to make me enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, hey, this has been fantastic, and we got to take these people somewhere to party. So I don't know who's on. And did we miss any questions? Did we miss any questions?
I got my St. Patrick's Day tie on just for Mikey the Streets, if he's watching. He's one of my first.
There you go. I see DJ Russell Joseph in the building. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for vibing with his house culture conversation. We're getting ready to take this party somewhere. Where are we taking it to?
Well, you're gonna put pressure. Don't put pressure on me.
Hey, well, I see. I got Marshall 5070. I see him out there. If you are okay with
that, no, Marshall plays fantastic stuff.
We're gonna load Marshall up and take these people to party a little bit. You guys have been amazing today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, but also being here for the Machine JT. This has been an incredible conversation, and I appreciate you. And you are on your best behavior, just so you know. You get a 5-star rating.
You're a fantastic moderator. You made my butterflies go away within the first minute, so I really appreciate it.
That's good. Well, hey, let's go over to Marshall like we always love to do, kicking down the door, showing love, letting them know that we're in the building. And again, this raid sponsored by the Machine JT. If you are on Facebook or somewhere else, we'll see you next time on Twitch. Here we go, raiding out now. Machine JT, hold tight. Oh,
before we go, I just want to thank my mods.
They're gone. They're gone. You have to go in the chat. You have to go in the chat. Yep. Go in the chat and let them know. But thank you so much. That was so much fun. And you're just a great soul. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, sir. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye now.